Okay, now we want to import our Photoshop background files, and we're going to add some effects to our robot in Hero. So let's go into File, Import, Import to Stage, and like I said, here's the background PSD. That's a Photoshop file. If you have something else, it might be grayed out. So you want to make sure you have a Photoshop PSD or the All Files selected. And let's see, select the PSD, background PSD, open, and that'll bring up another dialog box. And we want select all layers because we want both of these. Now we want these to be editable, so you won't be able to do also some of the effects if these are flattened. So we want to make sure these are bitmap image with editable layer styles. So let's click on the flare and make sure that is selected. Let's go into the background, make sure that one is selected there. Let's go back to the flare. Once again, down here at the bottom, there's the advanced options. Click that button down there, and that'll bring up, if I can even get to it. There we go. We want to make sure these layer conversions, we want maintain editable paths and effects, editable text, and animate layers. And let's click the button down at the bottom and go back, do our background, and check those also. Select that bottom button again. See if those are selected. Maintain editable paths, good. Editable text, animate layers, good. And import. Okay, and it automatically created some flare and background layers. And I'm going to select the flare, and it looks like it worked because I can see in here on the blending mode that it's on lighten, and I can go in and change it if I want. So that means it's editable. And we have an ActionScript 3 file that we created. Sometimes if these are all grayed out or you can't use any of them, it's possible that you didn't create your beginning file as an ActionScript 3 file. So I want a little trick here if you want to look at the different blending modes, which is what these are. I'm going to go to the normal, and this is under display and blending. You can see a little box around this, which means it's sort of selected. And if you go into your up and down arrows on your keyboard, you can go through and you can look and see it changes down here, and you can see what the changes are up here as well. So if you want, you can try to find one that you like. And you're welcome to pick something that you like best yourself. You know, the light one looks pretty good. And if we, let's see, maybe we can try to add some color effects, which is right above it. There's brightness. So make it real bright, really dark. The tints, you can add different tints to it, different colors. Oops, let me go back. Do advanced, where you can play around with a different color. If you know your colors, you can either take away green or add green, depending on which way you're going. So there, you're probably taking away green, and there you're adding green when you go to the right, and the numbers get higher. And it also has alpha also within that, which you're changing your transparency. So either transparent or opaque. I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to do the brightness, make it darker a little bit. Whoop. I accidentally selected, I can tell I selected this one down here on accident. What is G normal? Okay. And we got filters. I don't think there's really anything we can do. You can adjust color on here also. So if we want different hues or saturation, make it really bright. Color, contrast. Maybe some brightness, either darker or lighter again. Maybe I'll change the alpha on the style. The color effect style, I might try alpha and make it a little bit transparent so we can see that background behind it. Okay, so that's adding effects to our backgrounds here. And we'll take a look at our background. I mean, it looks pretty good already. I guess maybe we want to add some brightness again. Maybe adjust the color maybe. Maybe even try out blending modes if you want to get it kind of crazy. See the different ones. I think I'm just going to leave it normal because I kind of want it to be kind of a dark background. So I'm going to select my background and my flare layers down here in the timeline, and I'm going to drag them to the bottom. So now I can see my robot and hero. I'm going to select my robots. Let's lock the flare in the background, so I'm not selecting those when I select these. So I got these three selected. I want to flip them around, so I'm going to go under, there's different ways you can do it. You could go in and select it with your free transform tool and kind of move them around that way, flip them around. That's an easy way to do it. You could also, if you want them to stay in the right scale, you might go into, I believe it's modify, transform, flip horizontal, and there you can see they're all in the same scale. Line them up this way so they're kind of moving towards the inside of the background. I'll widen them up a little bit. I'll just show you editing one more time, just to show you how you can change a piece of this. So we'll go into our selection tool, double click. You can see now we're into our robot. Double click again, we're in the group. Double again, and now we're in our drawing object, and now we can select it. And now I got the dots, and you can see it's selected. Just have to sometimes keep on clicking, double clicking, and keep on double clicking. And select a blue color. So now, as you see, I only changed it on this one, but yet it updated on all of them. Now, if you notice, I can't select anything right now. That's because I'm within the drawing object. I'm sort of inside of this group, which you can see it down here on the timeline because it's grayed out. And so I want to go into my scene 1. So now I'm back into my scene. And let's go back and add some more effects to our robots. I'm going to add, I'm just going to select all 3. Let's do color effect. We'll just change the brightness of it. Just make them all a little bit darker. So they kind of fade into the background a little bit, except I might lighten the middle one up a little bit, and then the front one a little bit more. That way it kind of trying to get it to kind of fade into the background. Let's add some blur. So we're going to add a filter. And so down here at the very bottom, which I use my scroll over here to on the right, and can scroll down at the very bottom, there's filters, and there's a plus. You can also do the arrow. So plus or arrow, and we want the second one, which is blur. And its default is 4, and for the first one, I only want to do it maybe about 1 or 2. I'll try 2. Now, let's say we want to add that same blur to each one of the robots. So we can do a preset, which is, you can come over here on to the right on the filters, and it says options, and we'll click on that, and we want to do save as preset. We'll call it blur. I think I'm going to give it one more R because I think I already have one in here called blur 2. And I was going to call it 2 because down here, since I gave it a 2 pixel blurriness. I hit OK. And then when I open it back up, I can see my blur 2 is right here. So now I can go in and I can select this robot, and when I go back into my options for the filter and I select blur 2, it'll give me the same blur that I just created. And do it again here. So now all of them are blurred. While I'm here, though, I might blur that last one a little bit more. Maybe a 3. And I think I'll do the first one a little bit less. A little blur, maybe to maybe 1. Yeah. So it looks like it's kind of, once again, looks like it's kind of fading into that background. I'm going to save the file right now just to save it. And I think I'll call it an end of this section. And I think next we might be going into the 3D tools over here on the next part.